there, I'm Professor Potter, and this demo is to accompany your Week 2 drawing projects. The first thing that you will need to do is set up a still life. You want to have at least 5 to 10 objects, and you want to think about simple forms and different values in your objects. So I have selected an apple. It is a still life, so it's good to have something that is organic, fruit, vegetable, plant. I have selected a dark box, a white book, another darker book, a dark little bowl, a lighter pitcher. I put brown paper behind so I could have different values, so lights, darks, and middle values. You want to break it down into different sections. You also want to think about different levels in your heights. So the picture is up high, and then we have the book sort of in the middle, the apple being the lowest. And then we also have foreground, middle ground, background. So the apple is in the foreground. The box, the little darker bowl, is more middle ground. The picture is pushed a little further against the wall, so that would be our background. So we have different eye levels, we have things coming forward, some pushing behind, and then we have different values happening there. So keep in mind that colors have value as well. So the apple is a lighter value than the box behind it. If I had a red apple, that red apple would be darker in value than the green apple. So keep in mind that color has value as well as black, white, and gray or neutral objects. And sometimes it can help you to actually take a photograph with your phone and then switch that photo to grayscale or tonal so you can see what the values of the colors are. I don't want you to draw from the photograph, just use it as a tool to help you see the values of the colored objects in your still life. So after you have set up your still life, the first thing that you're asked to do, 5A, is a blind drawing, and I'm going to use one of my darker pencils, a 6B graphite pencil, and I'm using the darker pencil because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Now remember that a blind drawing is one continuous line, and you are not looking at your paper, you are only looking at the objects in front of you. And so I'm going to start up towards the top. It's just personal preference. I tend to like to start at the highest point when I'm doing a blind drawing. And I'm going to slowly feel my way across the outlines and the contours of the objects that I'm drawing. So right now I'm going across the middle part of that jug and up and around the inside of the handle. There's a really nice negative shape inside that handle. We talked about negative shapes in week 1. And when you're doing a blind drawing, if you need to get to another point, just draw your way over there. So I'm going to go back down that side of the jug, start looking at the curve of the bottom of the jug, making my way across. Then the little black bowl kind of gets in the way, so I'm going to go around the top of that bowl and back up the side of my jug and up that way, and then I'm going to come back down and find my way to the top of that little bowl again and come around here and around the side of the bowl. And there's a book there, and I'm fitting in the top of that book, kind of the back edge and the front edge. And remember, this is about observation. It's not about creating perfect drawings. Blind drawing is a eye-hand coordination exercise. I'm getting the back edge of the box and I'm looking at the angles on the box and how much of the top of the box can I see and the bottom of the box. And I'm bumping into the apple here, so I'm going around the contour of my apple. And I'm going to cut through my apple to the other side of the box, come up my box again. There's that white book on top there. And sometimes you can kind of get lost going on the side of my little white book. I think I did that already, but I can't remember. So I'm going to just keep going until I finish up the edge of my box here. And I broke my pencil, so I think we're done. There you go. There is my blind drawing of a still life. So that is 5A. So you'll want to do that first. And then 5B is your picture plane. Let me get my picture plane here. So you have crosshairs on your picture plane. So with one hand, I'm going to kind of prop against my board here and look through my picture plane. And all right, closing one eye might help here. I'm going to draw the still life onto my picture frame or plane here. And this is to give you an idea of proportion and placement of objects for when you're doing your freehand drawing. And I can't see the side of my box there. I'm going to have to invent it because my board is in the way. Okay, I think I got it. So if I lift up this paper and put that there, you're going to do a much cleaner, slower, better job of that than I did, but you get the idea. So you have your picture plane drawing. That is your 5B. Then the next thing you're going to do is get your sketchbook out, and you are going to do 2 sketches of your still life. I'm going to just do it on my paper here so you can see what I'm doing. The sketchbook is much smaller, but it'll still give you the same idea. So for your sketchbook, you're going to do a vertical composition and a horizontal composition. And again, I'm going to use my 4B pencil. So why do we try the vertical and the horizontal? It's really just to give you an idea of which way the composition is going to fit best on your paper, to see which is interesting, that gives you the most balance and space around your objects. So it's not about changing your still life, it's really more about how that's going to fit on the page and how you want to compose your final drawing. So this way it saves you time. It's a preparatory step into figuring out and composing a drawing that you're going to put more time into later. So since I'm not using my sketchbook, I'm going to create a vertical box on my page here. Oops. Just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about here. So I will first create a vertical composition here. Not perfect box, but it'll work. So a sketch, as we talked about before, is not the same thing as a final drawing. It's something that is loose and fast, and it's about looking at the larger overall shapes and the volumes of those shapes. It's about looking for composition and movement and placement. So I already know that my jug would most likely go off the edge of my composition if I go vertically. And got my little bowl here. And it's on a white book. And the jug is on a black book. Goes this way. White book that way. And my box will go off the edge of the page and we will just barely see the top of my apple. So if I go a vertical composition, I'm going to have to go much smaller in order to fit everything in there. Let's see if a horizontal composition might work better. So I'm going to create another box. Now a lot of times we call these sketches thumbnails, and really it's just about working out your ideas and your composition. And so a lot of times when I'm doing my own drawings, I'll do several thumbnails, just trying out different compositions before I actually do a final drawing. All right, so here again, I'm going to mark off if the top of my jug is around here and the handle here. I'm going to kind of create an envelope. My jug is about yay high. Let's see how this will go. Smaller bowl, box. All right. So you're thinking about general shapes rather than specific shapes. You're not thinking about details. You're not putting on flower patterns or text on the book. This is just about overall shape and composition. Look at the directions. Think about eye level. How much of the book, the top of the book, can you see? How much of the top of the box can you see? So let's see. White bowl. Fitting around here. I cannot see inside of the top of the jug, but I can see a little on the inside of the bowl. So that means my eye level is somewhere about right here. I'm still losing part of my apple there, but I rather like that composition. So I think what I would probably do is try one more and see if I could fit the whole apple in going vertically the other way. But this has taught me a lot and helped me to figure out what I want to do. So I'm going to, actually I'll use the back of this page. Don't want to waste paper. Okay, so that is 6 6A and 6B. You're doing a horizontal and a vertical composition. You're thinking about your eye level there. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is tone our paper for 7A. So I'm going to get out my tape here and I think since I decided I want to try and fit my apple in there, no, my paper doesn't want to turn. It won't fit on my board. I'll have to just use what I've got here. Try to get that straight. So I'm creating my rectangle. For the sake of videoing, I will go with my horizontal composition. You will need your vine charcoal and a paper towel. Okay, so the same way you toned your paper for your positive and negative shape drawings, we're going to tone our paper again using our vine charcoal, trying to get a nice medium value. That would be a middle gray. You don't want to get too dark or it'll be quite hard to erase out your lights. So shoot for a middle gray. And vine charcoal is a natural medium, and so it'll vary from one box to another. So even though you may have one package, you might have several sticks in one package that are a little harder than the others, simply by the nature of burning twigs. So using my paper towel, and going to go the opposite direction. I'm not loving that piece of charcoal. Let's see here, I've got another piece. There we go, we're getting closer. A little bit darker. Okay, now I am going to use my white eraser for this part, and I'm going to use my medium and soft charcoal pencils. I believe on the videos they're using maybe a charcoal stick, but I like these. I get a little more control with them. The next thing I'd say is hold on to your paper towel and keep your vine charcoal with you. It's really easy to repair mistakes with that, if you want to call them mistakes, or make adjustments, I should say, with your vine if you erase too far. So we're going to look at our composition and think about unit of measurement, or I think she called it measuring segment in the video. It's the same thing, different teachers use different terminology. So I usually refer to unit of measurement. And so in this composition here, I'm going to create crosshairs halfway down. Let's see, I've got about 9 inches, so about 4.5 mark here, and 13, so 6.5. And this way, when you're looking at your picture plane with the crosshairs, you can line up your drawing with that. It might help you out there. You may want to do your picture plane drawing again now that you've worked out your different compositions, and do one more vertical or one more horizontal. Think of your picture plane drawings and your sketches as tools to help you get to a final drawing that you're happy with. They're really just steps to work things out along the way. I'm using my medium pencil because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, and if I use the hard, it might be too light. But the video, I believe, has you start erasing out shapes. Before I do that, I'm going to actually sketch a drawing onto my paper here first. And once again, I'm looking at, we call this sort of a gesture drawing, similar to sketching, but I'm just going to lightly get my objects in here. They may not be very accurate at first. It's just to see that they're going to fit on the page the way I like. I will do my measuring and accurate drawing after that. But this is a gesture drawing is a light, loose drawing just to help give you placement of things on the page. And so I don't know how well you can see it because I am going lightly. And I'm looking at eye level again. I'm looking at the directions of the corners, how much I can see of the tops of the books. All right. And apple. Okay, when you're deciding on a unit of measurement, it's best to find a piece that will fit into the others and relate to them well. I generally suggest that it's a good idea to pick one of the objects closer to you and where you can see the whole object, or maybe the side of a box, or In this case, maybe side of, like the width of one of the books. The most obvious though is the apple, and I'm going to go with the width of my apple. If you have any shish kebab skewers at home, they are really good for measuring. When you measure, you want to keep your elbow locked. If you have a wishy-washy arm, your measuring won't be accurate. I'm just going to look at the relationships of the objects up there. So the width of my apple, using my finger and closing one eye, I'm sliding that finger and going from side to side on my apple. So the width of my apple is about equal to one and a half apples up the side of the box. So if I take that width of my apple, my box is 1.5 apples high. And so then I can go to my paper and go, okay, if my apple is this wide, then my box is going to be 1.5 of those. So I'm going to darken up my apple, firm that up here. Okay, and then from here to here, that's going to be my unit of measurement on my apple. So if I take that and go from I had my top of my box about right here, I know I'm going to have to bring that up a little higher in order to get 1.5. Okay, part of my box is going to go off the side, and I'm okay with that. Or off the bottom of my composition. And I'm also, I can use my skewer, looking at the angle of the box. It's not straight, it goes downhill. So I know my box is going to go down this way. And let's see how many apples long it is. So from that corner, 1, 2, 3, a little over 3 apples from the top of the box. 1, 2, 3. So I need to make it longer. It's going to go about here and then down. And let's see. Okay, let's see how deep it is. My unit of measurement and the angle of the box. If I'm just closing one eye and looking at the side of the box, it's only about that much of one width of an apple. So the side of my box is going to end around here. And I'm looking up. That angle's going away that way. There we go. Straight across. All right, my book comes in about this far. I can check to see how high my book is in relationship to the apple, and it's about 1/3 of the width of that apple. So I'll come here and go, let's see. About 1/3 would be like that, and so about like this for the width of my book there. And it's right along the edge, so it's really, let me see if I can get that straighter. There we go. How many apples wide or long is that book? So I'll take the apple, go 1, 2, and a little more than 1/2. So then I come here, go 1, 2, and I had that just about right. And that book goes almost to the back of the black box. Let's see the angle on that. So if you hold it up like it's on the clock, face of a clock, and it's going, what would that be, around 11 o'clock. right there. And the top will match it pretty closely in angle, and then come straight across. And it's okay to draw right through your objects to help you get accuracy. Our next book comes about right here. I'm just eyeing that, but you can check it in relationship to your apple. Let's see if I look at the width of the first book and compare it to the dark one, so the white one to the black one. The black one's a little bit taller. And the angle on that, let's see. Yep, it's pretty straight. So it's a little more, well, it's turning away from us slightly. A little more like this. I don't know if you can see the angles the same as mine. So checking this side, goes about like that. And I cannot see very much of the top of the book, just a tiny bit there. And it would go across this way. My jug's going to get in the way there. Okay, so width of my apple, 1, 2, okay, 1, 2, so I'm going to go a little bit off the top here, make this a little higher, and go right off my border. So I've got 2 apples high going off the top. How about the width of the jug? So I'm going to take 1 apple, go from the fattest point there on the jug. It's less than 2 apples wide. So about right here. And I'm going to look at where that handle comes, right here. I'm looking at the negative shape that comes around this way. Right up next to the edge there. And look at the width of the handle. And it kind of bumps up against the side of the jug there. Okay, then my little bowl, I know I can see cuts off the jug right here, and I already know that it's sitting on top of this box. And one little tip when you're drawing objects that are symmetrical is to give yourself a center line, and we already have the crosshairs right here, so I'm going to use that crosshair. Let's see, compare the width of the little bowl to the apple. It's about 1.5 apples. Okay, so it's starting about right here. I won't be able to use those crosshairs because they're not in the right spot. And it comes off to actually about right here. It's a lot wider than you'd think. So it's about that wide. Half of that be about right here for my center line. That way you can make sure that you're getting the same width on the bottom of it, the same width on either side at the top, and it just helps you to get your objects a little more symmetrical. And I can see a little bit of the inside there, about that much. So I'm going to add that little ellipse to the top. Okay, finish up my books. Okay, I have created my drawing. The next thing I'm going to do is take my eraser, and I am going to erase out all of the white objects. We're thinking about values. So which of your objects are the lightest objects? Now I put that brown paper in the background so I'd have some contrast of value instead of the white wall. And if you notice that I stacked the books, so I'd have dark objects against light objects and medium objects against lighter or darker objects, just to give myself more value contrasts. The paper is toned a medium gray. Okay, the next white object would be this book here. Now at this point, we're really just looking at about 4 values, 3 or 4 values. So we've got the lightest objects that I'm pulling out first. And this is setting us up for a longer study of a still life where you'll put in more detail. But right now, you're just looking at larger shapes and larger values. So I've got these 2 white objects. Now I'm going to push in the darks on my darkest objects. I'm using my soft charcoal, and I'm going to fill in the black on my little bowl here that's really dark. Again, you don't have to think about a lot of detail. This is looking at larger shapes and larger values. Then I have the black box. I'm going to fill in that black box. I'm just moving around my apple here. I'm using more of the side of my pencil so I can cover more ground, so to say. And in order to fill in the little spaces, you can change the directions of your mark making. All right, I'm just going to clean up my apple shape there, put back some of the drawing that got erased out, and clean up a few spots. Now, this book here isn't quite as dark as the other, so I'm just going to push in that middle gray a little bit to make that stand out a little more. it's darker than the background. So we have basically 4 values here. We have our lightest lights, we have our darkest darks, and we have middle value gray for our background, and our 2, so apple book background. So basically 4 values here, 2 middle grays, darkest dark, and white. So you're learning to look at things in simple values. You are organizing your shapes, and you're aware of eye level. So I can see more of the top of the box than I can see the top book. I cannot see into my jug, but I can see into my bowl. And so that finishes up your 7A.